Trailers. Why did it have to be trailers? Sorry, I'm only complaining because I've got not one but two trailers to deal with. Secret Invasion came out yesterday. Blue Beetle came out today. I can't promise I'll get both of them out within the same day because, I have other stuff to do. But I am going to take a look at them. And, of course, we're going to start with Secret Invasion, which came out first. I don't know right now what to expect out of this series. Partly because I didn't read the Secret Invasion comic, but also partially because I'm just nervous. Because the reason of which I'm nervous is that I thought it was a really neat twist in Captain Marvel to have the Skrulls not be the bad guys, to have the Skrulls, stand in for basically a form of refugee. And if they're going to be turned into the villains, even like a fraction of them being turned into the villains, I'm a little bit off about that, especially given the immigrant metaphor we've already established for them. Yeah, focusing in on the dangerous ones feels... I don't know if that's what they're doing though. Oh, that is kind of the nature of that story. And anyways, let's look at the trailer. Let's see what we've actually got. Come on. Here we go. Ominous sounds. That's what we've got.
Fury. Since you've been gone, things have gotten much worse.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
How do you think I came back?
That's real evocative of terrorist imagery. That makes me nervous.
You're in no shape for this fight that lies before us, old friend.
This is personal.
Very few of us know about the wars fought in the shadows that have raged on this planet.
I mean, I like this
You're
cast.
responsible.
Where are the Avengers? This war is one I have to fight alone. You're the most wanted man on the planet.
You don't know what they have planned for you.
The great Nick Fury.
I'm not talking a lot because I've got too much going on in my head.
One last fight.
All right. Okay. First thing, as a trailer, as just piece of media intended to sell a piece of entertainment, give you a sense and the feel of it, I think it does a pretty good job of it. Gives us little glimpses of the cast, a lot of which are actors who I just like to see, some of whom are already in the MCU, some of whom are new, but a lot of faces of actors that I like. There's a good sense of atmosphere and growing danger. That you're starting to get those little twinges of paranoia that's generally very core to a Skrulls story. If it was not for how the Skrulls have been handled by the MCU up to this point, I might even be excited about it. But again, if you've already established the Skrulls, the period for which they were the threat in Captain Marvel was only about the first half of the movie before we started to get a sense of things. Yes, they are dangerous the same way any living being is capable of being dangerous. But with this, especially that it started with just flat out suicide bomber imagery, and that they're already established to be allegorically refugees. I I don't feel good about this. Here's the thing. I feel like the people at Marvel are having buyer's remorse for what they initially did in Captain Marvel, because I will stand by what I said before. That was a really interesting, very different take on the Skrulls, to use them the way that Captain Marvel did. The thing is, doing that puts a big complication on trying to do a more traditional Skrull story with the Skrulls as a villainous presence that is good at inducing paranoia because they can look like anybody. So if you're going to do what Captain Marvel did, you kind of need to be prepared to not be able to do a standard Skrull story after that. But it looks like that's what they want to do. So it's like, look, whatever your feelings on Captain Marvel are, and I know not everyone likes it. I like it pretty well. I know not everyone does, and that's fine. I'm not saying you're required to think that's an amazing movie. But this really feels like they're just hoping nobody remembers the way the Skrulls were depicted before so that they can now do this. And again, if that movie hadn't very explicitly done a refugee allegory with these characters, then I wouldn't be so nervous, because you know what I'm getting flashbacks to? I am getting flashbacks to the Zygon Inversion two-parter from Doctor Who, which is not good. Yes, it has that one amazing speech by Capaldi. Watch it in isolation. It's fantastic. But the actual two-parter, the stories that it's telling, it's not good for a multitude of reasons, one of which being it makes the classic mistake as basically every fictional story that has tried to do either allegorically or directly a story about terrorists within a refugee or an immigrated group, which is that they will say, oh, it's not all of them. We're just telling a story about some of the dangerous ones. But then the dangerous ones are almost entirely what we see, with maybe one or two token good ones, which is what I'm afraid they're going to do with Talos. Maybe it won't fall into the traps that this appears to be setting up. To be fair, the exact extent of exactly what is being planned, how the Skrulls fit in, the specific reasons why they're doing this could, I'm not going to necessarily say make or break it if everything else I'm saying is accurate, but it could at the very least mitigate the damage severely. Depending on what the actual motivations of the villainous Skrull forces are, whether or not there are any other groups or beings that are in the mix, there are things that can just make it less of a one-to-one of doing a, hey, here's the terrorist cell within the immigrants story, which I don't need any more of these. And I don't even think every film or show that has done a version of this has been awful, but I do think we're overdue to stop. This story's been done, and you specifically did your first appearance of them in a way that makes me really uncomfortable with where it looks like you're taking it. And generally, I don't give a ton of benefit of the doubt on, well, maybe they're not doing what it looks like they're doing. And the reason I generally don't do that is, while I will always concede that it is possible to watch a trailer and get an impression of something and it turns out they're actually doing something else, I will always allow for that. I never assume it, because I'm going to assume you're selling me what the thing actually is. And I'm not just going to go and assuming you're lying unless I have a basis by which to do that. And I don't really have a practical basis, but I do have a desperate hope that what this is doing is not what it looks like. And further compounded by the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, which, again, for the most part, I liked. And certain aspects of it I thought were handled very well. But it bungled its villains. And this really feels like it could end up doing the same thing in the same way. And like that specific kind of take on the villains of, oh, well, they come from a group with a legitimate grievance, or, well, they've got a point, but they're going about it the wrong way. Like, I've already seen Marvel kind of bungle this, and I'd rather they just didn't, as opposed to try and do it right, which might be this, or this might just be a repeat of the same problems with the Flag Smashers. I don't know. Oh, this doesn't make me excited. This makes me nervous. This makes me really, 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 really nervous for what this is going to end up being. And again, my nerves are pretty much all Marvel's fault. I wouldn't feel this way if it was not for the way that Captain Marvel introduced and established how the Skrulls are and how they work and how they function narratively and thematically within the MCU. But you did do that, Marvel. I saw it. I've seen the groundwork you laid, and if this is the story you're putting on top of that groundwork, this is the wrong foundation to tell this story. If this was our introduction to the Skrulls, I would not be nearly as worried. At all. It probably would have a little bit more of that almost sort of Cold War political thriller, like a bit like Captain America the Winter Soldier, the movie did. But I don't know. I will grant there's a good chance I'm overthinking this, and I hope I am. I really, really, really do. But what did you think about this trailer? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living. Oh boy, I really hate coming away from a trailer that this kind of nerves. And it's not even like I watched it and went, well, I'm gonna hate that. Like I ended up doing Pixar's Elemental last week. It's like it's something that I would like to be excited about, but now I don't know if I can. Anyways, like, share, subscribe also help. Don't worry too much about it. I try to take a relaxed attitude around here. You can just come on back next time you need a break. This video wouldn't have been possible without my supporters over on Patreon, and I would especially like to thank Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Ruth, Oliver B., Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Imudelki, Leotha Boyd, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Bernabi Lax the Poodle, Robin Powell, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperol, Tim Price, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, David Hall, General Contact Unit Problem Child, Shayla Gourlay, and Rosalind Bennett. Thank you so much.